My sister screamed that I was a disgrace to the family and slapped me in a crowded store. But the words that killed me came from my own mother, whispering, "She always knows how to embarrass her sister." They had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. My name is Captain Mindy Roach, and I am a cyber warfare officer in the United States Air Force. I had just come off a 72-hour no-sleep operation protecting a key satellite uplink when I landed in Savannah, Georgia. The exhaustion was a dull ache, but the welcome from my family was a sharp, fresh wound. My father, Thomas, picked me up in his pristine '67 Mustang, his prized possession. He didn't get out, barely looked at me, and his only words were a warning not to get his immaculate trunk carpet dirty. Dinner was my older sister Blair's stage. As always, when I mentioned I was consulting for NATO in Germany, she waved a dismissive hand. My mother sighed. "Oh dear, off again. Why can't you find a nice, stable job here like Blair's husband?" My service to my country was an inconvenient, unstable phase I needed to grow out of. The next day, seeking a moment of peace, I went to a respected local jeweler to have a custom titanium bracelet made for my boyfriend, Gideon. The design was personal, engraved with the coordinates of the air base where we first met. It was a quiet symbol of a love that saw me for who I was. That peace shattered when the shop bell chimed. It was Blair, flanked by her society friends. The ambush was on. "Well, look what we have here," she chirped, her voice designed to carry. "Captain Roach doing a little shopping. Aren't you supposed to be out saving the world?" She snatched the titanium sample bracelet from the counter, holding it like a dead insect before throwing it down. "Is this a reward for polishing some general's boots?" she sneered. Years of silent endurance snapped. "You would never understand, Blair," I said, my voice quiet and cutting. "Because everything in your life has been bought and paid for." Just then, my mother swept in, summoned by a dramatic text. Seeing Blair's outrage, she aimed a look of weary disapproval at me. Blair, with her audience secured, shrieked, "You are a disgrace to this family," and slapped me hard across the face. The sound echoed in the silent store, but the physical blow was nothing compared to my mother's whisper to her friends, a murmur meant for my ears. Good heavens. Mindy always knows how to embarrass her sister. In that single, devastating moment, I wasn't her daughter. I was a poorly behaving prop in Blair's life. Time thickened, the sting on my cheek pulsed, but my military discipline took over. My spine went ramrod straight, my hands stayed open. I did not react. My stillness, my absolute refusal to break, unnerved them. It was then that a new voice, deep with authority, cut through the tension from the doorway. "Touch her again," it said. "I dare you." A full colonel in Air Force service dress uniform stepped forward, creating a protective barrier between me and my family. "Ma'am," he said to Blair, his voice low and steady, "I just witnessed you physically assault a uniformed captain. Under military and civilian law, that is a felony." He pulled out his phone. "The military police are 5 minutes away." The color drained from my mother's and sister's faces. Their power had evaporated. They were silently escorted out. The colonel, introducing himself as Colonel Sterling from Air Force Space Command, then stunned me further. "Captain Roach," he said, recognizing my name tape. "Your report on the Silent Sparrow malware attack was outstanding. You saved our entire communications infrastructure." He saw my work, my worth. His gaze fell on the red mark on my cheek. "What you just did, Captain," he said firmly, "that wasn't weakness. That was discipline." My most private humiliation, however, had been secretly filmed by another customer. By the time I got back to my parents' house, the 30-second clip was exploding online. #dignity in uniform was trending. My phone vibrated relentlessly with notifications. Then my mother called. Not to apologize, but to screech, "What have you done? You have humiliated this entire family." Mindy, in her world, the crime wasn't the assault. It was that it had been witnessed. The problem wasn't Blair's violence, but my refusal to absorb it silently. I hung up, sickened. Then another call came, this one from a Washington, D.C. number. "Captain," a professional female voice said, "my name is Colonel Evelyn Reed. I'm with the Joint Public Affairs Office at the Pentagon. We've seen the video. Your composure was extraordinary. We'd like to invite you to be the keynote speaker at our leadership seminar next month. The theme is Grace Under Fire." The universe had just turned my deepest shame into my greatest professional opportunity. Standing backstage at the Pentagon auditorium, the sanitized, professional speech I had prepared felt like a lie. I thought of Brené Brown's quote about the person in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. My face had been marred. The slap, the humiliation, that was my arena. To talk about abstract theories would be a betrayal of the lesson I had learned. I folded the notes and slipped them into my pocket. I was going to tell the truth. I walked onto the stage into the glare of bright lights. Facing a sea of uniforms, generals, colonels, the leaders of the most powerful military in the world. Good morning, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. A week ago, I was assaulted. A profound silence fell over the auditorium. It wasn't by a foreign enemy, it wasn't by a hacker. I was assaulted in a jewelry store in my hometown. The person who assaulted me was my own sister. You could have heard a pin drop. She slapped me across the face in public. And the most painful part was not the sting on my cheek, but hearing my own mother blame me for the scene. I paused, letting the raw honesty land. Every instinct I have screamed at me to react, to fight back, but I didn't. I stood my ground. And later I was told that my refusal to engage was not a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of discipline, and that is what I want to talk to you about today. I told them my story. Not as a victim, but as an officer who had faced a different kind of battlefield, one of emotional warfare, where the enemy knew all my weaknesses because they had helped create them. Leadership in life, I said, my voice gaining passion, is about holding onto your own dignity when everyone around you is trying to strip it away. It's about choosing your response, not just reacting to provocation. I looked out at the sea of faces and I no longer saw just rank. I saw people who had their own private battles. So I ask you, I concluded, when you find yourself in your arena, and you will, what will you choose? Will you react with your instincts, or will you lead with your discipline? For a moment there was only silence, then a single person began to clap. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet, and the sound of their applause was a physical force, a wave of respect and validation that washed over me. Healing places I didn't even know were still broken days after my speech were a whirlwind of newfound respect and purpose. Then, while working in D.C., a headline from my hometown newspaper caught my eye. Savannah socialite Blair DeVoe under investigation for financial fraud. My sister, the chairwoman of a major charity, was being investigated for embezzling funds to pay for her luxury lifestyle. Her perfect world was shattered. A younger me would have felt a surge of triumphant glee. Instead, I felt nothing. It was like reading about a stranger. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't watching your enemies fail. It was being so absorbed in your own success that you barely noticed. My mother called, of course, her voice a torrent of panicked sobs. Mindy, you have to come home. Your sister needs you. She was summoning me to perform my old duty, to use my newfound credibility as a shield to protect the family name. This was the final test, Mom, I said, my voice perfectly steady. I can't. That is her mess, not mine. I am not cleaning it up for her, not anymore. For the first time, her most powerful weapon, guilt, had no effect. I hung up and felt a vast, liberating sense of relief. At that exact moment, an email notification popped up on my laptop. The subject line, notification of promotion. I had been officially selected for promotion to the rank of major. A world was collapsing in Savannah, and a new one was opening for me. A month later, I returned home one last time to pack my belongings. Blair asked to see me. She was a shadow of her former self, her arrogant fire extinguished. I was always so jealous of you, she whispered. You had yourself, you knew who you were. I'm sorry. The apology, when it came, was quiet and sincere. I don't hate you, Blair, I said, surprised to find it was the absolute truth. But I can't carry your weight anymore. I stood up and walked away, releasing myself from her fate. My final stop was the jewelry store. I didn't buy the bracelet for Gideon. Instead, I bought a pair of small, simple rose gold earrings for myself. As I fastened them in the mirror, I saw a woman who was calm, whole, and knew her own value. It was a reclamation, on the transport plane heading to my new post. I realized the best revenge isn't for them to see you living well, it's the profound peace you feel when you succeed and you don't even have the urge to look back to see if they're watching. That is the moment you know you're truly free. My story taught me that the most important battles are the ones we fight for our own peace, and true freedom is the moment you stop needing an apology. I'm sure many of you listening have faced your own arenas, I would be honored to hear about. The moment you knew you were free, or the one boundary you set that changed everything. Your stories give strength to others, so please share them in the comments below. If you believe in the power of stories like this, subscribe and become part of this community.